everybody, my name is Joey. Welcome to my channel if you've never been here before, and welcome back if you have. What you see here is a really special opportunity for those of you that might love Sam's Bead Box but you don't want to subscribe to their monthly box. This was the February 2024 bead box that subscribers would have received. It was called Amethyst Allure, and they had a quantity of some past boxes on their website, and they have created a special opportunity for my audience to receive this box if you would love to have one of Sam's bead boxes but you don't want to subscribe. And it is discounted, and it is just about at the same price when you use my discount code as you would have paid if you were a monthly subscriber to the box. So I think it's a great opportunity. I was reading comments, and a lot of you say, oh, I just can't do a monthly subscription box or another one. You're already maxed out with the ones that you get. But there are so many beautiful boxes. So it's a great opportunity for you. And for me, I honestly have to say I don't understand why. I'm kind of surprised that there are any of these boxes left, because this box is filled with gemstones, beautifully cut and faceted Czech glass. There's some oversized pinch beads, there's coin beads, Saturn beads, cylindrical beads, these gorgeous Czech glass hearts that are also leaves depending on how you turn them. There is tiara cast in this box, and these are just absolutely gorgeous. If you're missing tiara cast, there was a selection of that. Table cut beads, and this is one of my very favorite Czech glass beads, and I'm going to make this the focal. This is a brick shaped bead with this beautiful profile with a flower embossed on both sides, and I actually don't have this beautiful bronzy color. There were purple Czech glass flowers. There are pearls in this box. Like, it just goes on and on. Czech glass faceted rounds, little drucks, amethyst beads. It just amazing. And I absolutely love these amethyst faceted rondelles. And there were these silky tassels, 2 of them on this strand. So I've cut one away, and that's going to go into my project because I just love it. So if you tap more under this video, and you that will open my description box, but you always have to tap more a second time because I put so much information in my boxes. I work really hard on them, but that's where you'll find my discount code and the link for purchasing the past boxes. And so I just kind of put this out because I'm going to do at least 2 videos. There's no way that I can just make one piece with this deliciousness, but I'm going to set this aside so that we can start on the first project that I'm going to be doing with this beautiful past box. So for my project, I am going to prepare a few things, and what this is going to be is a really stunning focal piece of a necklace that I am going to add into one of my base chains. So I have this cone shaped bead cap, like a tassel bead cap, and let me just show you this really cool assortment. A lot of you have seen it before, pardon me for reaching behind, but I can put a link to this in the description box. It has every shape and size of cone cap that you could ever want, and I pull from this all the time, and it also comes in other metallics. So if you prefer copper or if you prefer silver, it is available in that. So I'll put a link for that in my description box. So when you tap more, like I said, it's that more if you're not tech savvy like I am not. It's right under the video title, and you'll only see a little tiny bit of the information box. You have to tap more a second time, almost always. It does depend on the device that you're watching on, but my links for everything are there, and this is such a good deal to not have to commit to a monthly subscription, but to get one of these amazing gemstone and Czech glass packed boxes. Okay, I am taking one of those brick shaped Czech glass flower beads, and I have taken some E6000 glue and just a little daisy spacer and glued it right in the center of that bead. And I want to get that ready because I'm going to need to handle this a lot to create my focal with wire. So the other thing that I'm going to do is further embellish that by using some gel Loctite super glue And I have a little flat back crystal that I am going to adhere right in the middle of that bead cap. So I am going to take my gel Loctite super glue. It takes like less than a drop, if that's even possible. You may not even be able to see it, but I'm just going to put one little drop in the middle. And what I love about these, the E6000 and this, is you have plenty of time. You don't have to rush. You can do your crystal setting, you know, calmly and patiently, and you don't have glue running all over everything. I just want to make sure that my crystal is pushed down into the glue, and also that it's centered. So the gel Loctite super glue dries a lot faster than the E6000. So I did my E6000 first, and really you could use the same glue for both, but the E6000 is a little bit thicker. And so my little bead is ready for the rest. I'm not finished embellishing that bead. I'm having so much fun with this. It's one of my favorite beads. So I'm going to show you everything that's going into my project. I have cut a 7 and a 9-inch piece of Soft Flex 49 strand bead stringing wire, and guess what? It's in the purple amethyst color. It's so perfect for this box, and I may do a third one. I'm going to start with 2 and see how I like that. And then I have my Soft Flex craft wire out here. I have 22 gauge and 24 gauge, and I also have a piece of 20 gauge. So I'm using that, the different gauges, and as we go forward, I'll show you why. So I want to get rid of the silver on this beautiful silky little tassel because I want my piece to be amethyst and bronze and gold. I love these little gold Saturn beads, so let me grab a few of those. I'm going to put a few of those in my project. I just love here's my color combination. I'll put a few of these. I'll be pulling from the little dish that I showed you. But I love those. And these faceted rounds. I'm not sure. Let's see. I think I'm also going to use these. And definitely these disky shaped rondelles. I mean, look at that color story. And with the bronze. So I'm going to put all of these out here because those are going to go in. Okay, so I'm going to take a piece of 20 gauge wire, and this is never going to be seen again, so it doesn't really matter how it looks, but I'm going to just wrap around the top of this tassel, and I'm even going to use the little loop that's here just so that when I pull this up into my bead cap, it's nice and secure, because this is going to be part of my focal. So I'm just going to like wiggle this in here. It can be a messy wrap for this. And I have already pushed my tassel inside the cone, so I know that it fits, and I know that I have a little extra space for this wire. So I'm just going to like get this wrapped. Like I said, it doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to be secure. And then I want this to be coming straight up out of the top. I love these amethyst faceted rondelles, but they have really small holes. A lot of gemstones do. They're kind of like a pearl, so I had to go through a few of them, and they're all a little bit irregular too as far as their size. I had to go through a few of them to find one that went on my 22 gauge wire. But that one goes, and I like that one, so it's a little bit smaller. So I'm just going to come here, and because this is only 22 gauge wire, I'm going to do a wire wrapped loop here, and then this is going to be ready for stringing when I get to that. So I'm just going to get a really nice, neat wire wrapped loop in the top of this tassel. Okay, my tassel is ready for my focal, and I can go ahead and string that onto this longer wire right in the middle, and then I'll design from both sides. And this is going to be a shorter section, so I'm going to have a couple of like concentric half circles as my focal. And then I'm going to move to getting this ready. This is going to be the main kind of a bar necklace, if you will, but not the minimalist plain ones that I've done videos on. I am going to, let me grab, before I do that, before I put it on, some 24 gauge wire, and I'm going to take a pretty generous amount, like maybe 18 inches. I'm just guessing. It's not a big bead, so I don't need a ton. I'm going to be doing a herringbone wrap that's going to be going horizontally in my design, so I only can do as many wraps really as will fit on the profile of this bead. So I'm going to come to about, you know, anywhere in here and just get 2 wraps in and just scrunch them together, make them nice and neat. This is just to secure my wrapping wire to my core wire. I do this, I do herringbone this way. It's so much easier. There are other ways to do it, but a lot of the other ways you have to do a lot of measuring to get your wraps right, and this is just a really easy way to do it. So I'm going to feed my bead on, go from this side. So I have a little bend in my wire, and obviously I know that's going to be the front because I have embellished that. And now I'm going to come to this other side, get this about in the middle, and it's a little wiggly at first, but I'm going to come down the side here and hold this with my thumb and finger, and I'm going to come to this side now and stay around the edge of the bead, and I'm going to wrap to the back and back to the front, and I'm going to do one more time just so that it matches the other side. And as I go, if I feel like my wraps could be tighter, I'm just going to give it a push with my nylon jaw pliers. And so like this side needs a little tidy up, so do that before you move on. So it looks like that. And now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to bring this wire up this side, hold it with your thumb and finger. The corners on these beads are not sharp, so if you need to create a little bit of a corner like that, a little bend with your plier before you wrap, that can give you a prettier kind of bead frame. And I'm just going to get a hold with my thumb and finger and come to the top of those wraps. So my wrapping wire is on top of my core, and I'm also placing it at the top of my first 3 wraps, and I'm going to wrap behind and come back around to the front, just like that. And now if you need to rotate your work, however you're, you know, with your dominant hand, however you need to be to get it in there. And so this time I need to lay this wire behind the first wrap that I did. And since we embellished this bead, it's easy to see the back. I'm going to go behind and again grab it with my thumb and forefinger. I'm going to just tidy up this corner a little bit. Some beads are easier to herringbone wrap than others. If you're new to this, maybe try a cube bead or a bead that has a thicker side, because it makes wrapping a little bit easier, but you can really even do this to a round bead. I'm going to repeat the same thing. I'm always going on top of the core wire, behind it, and then back around to the front. And you can see we're starting to get a really pretty bead frame. And then just rotate and come down behind the first wrap we did, get a hold of it with your thumb and your finger, And again, I'm placing this wire on top of my core and right at the top of my previous wrap, and go behind and back around to the front, so we're in position to go down the side again. Place it behind my last wrap that I did, hold it with my thumb and my finger, go on top of my core wire, behind it, and back around to the front. And I think this is going to end up being my last wrap because I'm out of wire. So you can keep wrapping until you've come to the end of your wire that you cut off, or until you are happy with it. You know, you don't have to fill up the whole space, but it's pretty well done. And all I want to do now is get this wrap to the back and snip this off and tuck it like we do anything. Just make sure it's not scratchy. Can't even see it. There it is. And again, if you need to push any of your wraps together, your nylon jaw pliers are invaluable for doing that. Okay, I'm going to just set my focal down, and I paused for just a second. I pulled out some 8/0 and some 11/0 seed beads for my stringing, and I'm sitting here, you know, this always happens to me when I start designing. I wanted to make this a add-on section for one of my base necklace chains, but now I'm not sure. I may, as I was cutting my beads open to get ready to make my focal part, I may want to go ahead and use seed beads and these beautiful colors and just bead up my whole necklace. I guess that's to be determined. So you guys can come along with me for all these design decisions. And so one other thing, if you're doing this along with me, this is the focal, and I'm going to be making some cascades or some concentric cascades that will attach here and here. So you have to be working from both sides. When I do this design, I have done this before, I'm able to hold it in my hand and get my loops in the end, but you might want to grab an earring back, like a silicone earring back, anything that will fit on your end of your 20 gauge wire, so that once we start stringing onto this holding on to everything. So if you have a silicone earring back, it's good to have that handy, you know, if you're doing this along with me. The other thing that we will need are some crimp beads. I am going to be doing flat crimps on my focal strands. So I'm just going to grab some crimp beads out here. These are, there's a few different sizes here. Let me take the larger ones and put them back in. And if you are newer to jewelry making, this is the absolute easiest method of crimping, because you simply flatten it with your pliers. So I'll show you how to do that. And then I'm going to start on, let me start on my smallest strand here. And I'm not going to crimp at first, because everything has to have a focal down the middle that is going to land underneath my central piece. So I'm going to start out with some, like maybe 3 gold seed beads. I'm just going to string a little pattern, and I have to decide what I want as the focal on my first strand. I love these little teardrops. That would be a really pretty focal. I just have to play for a second and decide what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm going to clamp off this one end, and I'll show you the little pattern that I came up with. So I just strung from both sides, and that's going to be my pattern for this. Let me make a little space here. I love cutting open all the beads when they're this gorgeous, but so this is going to hang right beneath that first focal. So super easy to do. On one end, I'm going to put one of my crimp beads on, and since I only cut a 6-inch piece of bead stringing material, because I don't like to waste, I'm just going to make a loop with my pliers and get back down through that crimp bead. I want this to be a pretty small loop. Just kind of want it to disappear. And I already know that my little Czech glass rounds that are on the end, that this cut end is not going to feed back through. So I'm just going to have to get my loop in here and trim it off. Okay, so once you have your loop there, and I really feel like I want it to be a little bit smaller. See if I can do that. Just move this bead up a little bit. Okay, I'm happy with that. So I just have that little loop in here, and I'm simply going to come with my pliers and just flatten that crimp bead. You don't have to like really crush it, but just flatten it. And if I could feed that little tail into the first bead, I would do it, but I know that it doesn't go, so I'm going to come really close with my cutters. Just get in there. This first strand is quite small, but just trim. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So this is my first little swag. Just pick up a crimp bead, make a loop, and flat crimp. And now this is ready to get strung onto my focal. So I have to decide if I want to put a bead here before I string that on, and I think that I do. I think that I want one of these. Oh, and I love these discs. Those are gorgeous, but I just got some disc spacers, an assortment, some kind of wavy disc spacers. I have all colors, and I like the antique bronze and the gold, but I think I'm going to stick with the shiny gold. I'm going to put some of these little disc spacers out here to work with as well. Love stacking discs. There's something so beautiful about it. So let's see. Can do. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. Look at that. Gorgeous. Okay, and then I'm going to feed this on, and I will definitely not need this full length of wire, and I will have to bend it or trim it in order to string because this doesn't reach, but that's totally okay. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. A little disc, a Czech glass disc, a metal disc, and a Czech glass disc. And I'm just going to bend this wire because I don't need all of this. Just bend it to get this strung. Look at that. Isn't it so gorgeous? It's so regal. Okay, and here's where I said if you don't want to hold on to everything, this is where your little earring back can help you. But I'm just going to lay this down because I need to create another swag. So I'm going to take my longer piece and I'm going to do the same thing, only on this one I know that my tassel is going to be the focal. And here's also where I have to decide. Usually I do 3, and I don't know why, but for some reason, maybe because I love all these beads and I don't want it to get too busy, but I was thinking on this one to just do 2 swags. So this would be 1, 2, 3. I'm still having odd numbers, and I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to create a little stringing pattern here with the beads that I have out here. Okay, that is my little pattern for my next drop. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I have one end clamped off, and I'm going to pick up a crimp bead and make a loop and flat crimp here as well on both ends. I want to get my loops to match, and you know, I just, even though this is a very short piece, I don't want it to be rigid the same way when we do a bracelet or a necklace, and I feel like that's pretty similar to the other side. Flat crimp and trim that little cut end. Doesn't fit back through the Czech glass. And then I just need to decide on a spacer bead between my next swag. So let me look at what I have out here. I don't want to get this too wide. It's a necklace bar for sure, but I don't want it to be too wide. So maybe that's really pretty. I like that. One on this side. Oh wow, look at that necklace focal. Isn't that gorgeous? And as I said, you could do like another strand. You can do as many as you want, but I think I'm gonna, I like the odd number of 1, 2, 3. I'm really happy with that. It's stunning. And then I do want to put a little bead on the end. You just play a little bit and see what I like the looks of. That's really pretty. So I'm just going to finish with a disc and an 8/0 seed bead. And here's where I said if you want to use that earring back as a stopper, but I'm able to hold this in my hand. And then I'm going to get, just because I'm doing this all one-handed, I'm going to get my 1.5 millimeter one-step looper, and I'm going to come to this end, put my wire through the one-step looper, and just turn it this way so gravity is helping me. And I'm just going to push this up. Let me get myself organized. I'm going to push this up so that my last seed bead is right up against, keep pushing it in, right up against the front jaw of the plier. That little seed bead wants to go in. Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to push that up there, and I'm gently closing with my hand here, and just so that I can align myself, and I'm going to let my tool, let me hang on to this and do it this way, let it make that cut for me. And it's a good way. This tool is really like another hand if you use it like this. So my first little loop is in, and I'm going to flip this around and do the same thing on this side. I'm just kind of looking at my focal bead here. I'm going to do the same thing, put my wire in, get that seed bead right up to the front jaw. I'm gently closing the tool here so that I can see what I'm doing. Let it make my little cut for me down. And now while it's in the tool, if I need it, my loops are not misaligned at all, but if they are, like now while it's in the tool, I can, you know, align everything. But that's acting like another hand. And then I just want to come here and like work hard in that loop, work hard in that loop, and that is my focal of my necklace. And it is ready for me to decide if I'm going to add this on to one of my existing chains. And for those of you that haven't seen that, I have these base necklaces, I call them, and they have a solid brass, gold plated, and E-coated for anti-tarnish chain, and I put decorative lobster claw clasps on the front. And so this was the Spa Day Sam's Bead Box that I just made this little add-on necklace, and then I can very easily just slip these off and change out my base, you know, change out my add-on part to completely change the look of my necklace. So I was thinking of making a small section here and making this an add-on piece for my base necklace, but I have so many beads, and of course I do want to do bracelets with this box as well. So let me just play for a second and think about how I want to finish the back part of my necklace. Okay, here's what I decided to do. I've totally changed gears. I have made 2 components with that same 20 gauge wire that I did the focal necklace bar with, and I'm going to do 2 more for this side. And I decided to create a necklace with no clasp that pops over the head, and I'm going to do my stringing with these antique bronze just to tie in my focal in the part of the necklace. So I'm going to get a pretty good length of my purple amethyst color wire, and I'm going to dot the stringing with the 8/0 and the 11/0 seed beads that are appearing down here. So I'm loving it. I'm loving mixing the brighter gold with the darkened, the dark gold, that antique bronze. I look at it as a dark gold, and I love the contrast of these opalescent white Czech glass beads, these oversized pinch beads, and these cylindrical beads. Like, this is just such a pretty color combination with the gold and the crystal in the Saturn beads. Like, it just all came together for me. So I kind of cleaned up my mat a little bit and took a look at everything. So I'm just going to pull out of the camera for a second. I'm not even going to measure. I am just going to take a little length here. Okay, so if you like this project, this back part of the necklace, you can put a clasp. You can really adjust that for your own taste and for your own jewelry wardrobe. But let me show you really quickly what I did for these components. It's a piece of 20 gauge wire. I put a simple loop in it. I'm using my 2 1/4 millimeter one-step looper. And so for my longer one, I threaded on a Saturn bead. Whoops, come back, little guy. You have to go on the wire. A Saturn bead. Just going to copy it exactly. A disc. I cut open the 6 millimeter amethyst rounds, and then I just dotted. I'm going to do the same thing in my stringing. I dotted with an 8/0 gold seed bead, one of these white opal cylindrical beads, and then this same thing on this end. So it's going to be like a little mini section of beaded chain, and I'm just going to put this in my one-step looper the same way that I did with the other sides. Don't let it flip out of there if it wants to, and just bend my beads out of the way. I'm not popping it closed here. I'm watching to make sure that I'm not damaging my beads, and if anything became misaligned while it's in the tool. So that's my first component, and I'm going to repeat the same thing again. So on this one, I put one of the 4 millimeter opal Czech glass rounds, an 8/0 seed bead. What did I do? A disc bead, a glass disc, then a metal disc. And I did have, I can already see that little bend in the wire. I did have to sort through these amethyst faceted rondelles because they had really small holes, so I had to sort through to find a couple that would fit on 20 gauge wire, but I did find them, and I really wanted them on there, so I went through my whole strand to get 2 that would make this little component. Such a pretty component. And then same thing again. Gently close my tool so I can watch what's happening here. Let it make that cut for me. I'm controlling how much I close it here. Pull my component down as I'm closing. If I see that I'm putting stress on my beads, I stop. I stop closing the tool because I can finish closing that loop with my pliers, and I would put my pliers to these loops anyway because that's me. I like to work harden all my loops, and I also want to make sure that they're all closed really well and work hardened just by opening and closing the pliers with a little bit of force. And I already knew that I was not going to open these loops again because I have out here 6 gold-filled diamond cut jump rings that are really sturdy, and I'm going to pop one of those in between every single thing here for my connecting. And I'll show you what that's going to look like for newer people, and just for newer people as well. I'll just show you how to properly open a jump ring. These jump rings look like solid rings when they're closed well because they're such a thick gauge and because of the diamond cutting, so it's even hard to find the opening. It's a really high quality jump ring, but I found my opening and I'm going to twist. So I am twisting one plier toward me and one plier away from me, and I'm going to add that to my little focal necklace bar here, and then add my first component. And then to close it, you do the same thing. Also, I use a jump ring tool. Sometimes I won't use this with the heavy gauge, really heavy gauge jump rings, but you just want to make sure that metal touches metal. And like on these, I don't need to do much else because they're really, really high quality. And so it's looking like that. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to pop one of these in between. If I can find the opening, there it is. I'm going to pop one of these. So whether you're using pliers or a jump ring tool, you just want to do that twisting motion. You never want to try to pull a jump ring apart. On these, you wouldn't be able to. The gauge is too heavy. But if you were, you'd never get that round shape back. So for newer people, opening and closing your jump rings, you want to do that twisting motion. And I'm going to go ahead and pop one on the end as well, because this is where I'm going to crimp and do my stringing. And so this will give me a good solid connection. So isn't that pretty? It's like a little miniature beaded chain. So I'm going to do the same thing to this side, and I'm going to do a different crimping method for my strung part. And so I'll pop back in after I get this done and show you. Okay, I'm going to use number 2 crimp tubes and my magical crimping plier to attach my bead stringing material onto these jump rings. And I'm just going to show you my favorite crimp tubes are the number 2 gold-filled crimp tubes from Softflex company, but Beadalon makes number 2 crimp tubes that work with the magical crimping plier, and also Beadsmith. So I have these linked in my description box with all the metallics, and this is actually made for the magical crimping plier, and they work great. But if I get so many questions about the magical crimping plier, so if you are struggling with this tool and you cannot get it to work for you, try the Softflex. Sorry for the rattling. Try the Softflex crimp tubes. They have a much thicker wall than other brands. The really cheap crimp tubes, and I know it's probably difficult to see the thickness of the wall of this tiny little tube, but cheaper crimp tubes don't have a thick wall, and it does make it harder to turn this into a bead with this tool. But it can be done, and I use all of them. I honestly use all of them, but the best quality and my favorite ones are the number 2 gold-filled crimp tubes from Softflex company. So I'm just going to thread my bead stringing material through and make a loop coming back through that number 2 crimp tube, and don't want this loop to be really too small because I don't want this to be kinked. That's why I went up to my 2 1/4 millimeter one-step looper, and why I chose a 6 millimeter jump ring, because everything is really fluid and chain-like and my necklace won't be kinked. So I'm going to come right here with my magical crimping plier and fit that tube squarely in the middle and close it well. And so what that does is takes the tube and turns it into a square with 4 pinched corners. Now I want to fit, this is the crucial step, I want to fit this tool, let me get where you can see, I'm going to get underneath. I'm going to fit this tool back over that square in the opposite direction, and I need to feel that it's squarely in the middle, because if you don't get right in the middle of the divot, you will mangle your crimp tube. I feel that it's in there, and once you know what that feels like, you'll get it right every time. But then you close down, and then you just want to maintain that position of that little tube in the tool and open and close and just go around your work a few times. And eventually you'll feel that it's not doing anything. So it's a perfect little bead. If you feel like it needs more shaping, for demonstration purposes, I'm not really paying attention. I'm more trying to explain to you what I'm doing, but you can always fit it back in and go around a few times. So you get this perfect little bead, and a number 2 crimp tube is pretty much the same size as an 11/0 seed bead, really, really similar in size. So I'm going to start my stringing here, and before I trim that tail, I'm going to try to fit it into my first bead. And what I plan to do with my stringing is start out with these little 6mm Czech glass faceted rounds and pop an 8/0 seed bead in between each one of those. I'm going to separate these into the two sides. I don't know if that makes sense because I'm not going to have a clasp on this. So what I'm going to do is separate the quantity of beads that I have, and I'm going to string half of them here and save the other half for when I come around to this side so that my necklace is symmetrical. Does that make any sense? So I'm just going to divide the quantity in half. So I have 13 beads for each side, and let me just move these over here so I know they're ready for the other side. And I'm going to start, let me start with an 8/0 seed bead. A lot of times you can fit 2 strands through your 8/0 seed bead. And I can. And then let me see if the 2 strands will go through the Czech glass round. It does. So that's going to be my stringing for these first 13 beads. Is just an 8/0 seed bead, a Czech glass round, an 8/0 seed bead, and then I'm going to transition to these matching drucks, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to divide the strand in half so that both sides of my necklace match. Isn't that pretty? And I just love, from all this busyness, going to a more simple pattern, and I love that the Czech glass colorways here match, and it ties back to my focal bead that I did. So this is going to be really boring stringing, so I'll do this off camera, but it's going to look like that until I get through these 13 beads. And I actually don't have to divide. I'm sitting here thinking I just had an aha moment. I don't have to divide this strand because once I string on my 13, this is going to be the back of my necklace. So I'll string these, and I'm going to pop an 11/0 seed bead in between the smaller beads. And once they're all strung, I'll do the other 13 Czech glass faceted rounds, the 6mm on this end. So I will be back and show you what this looks like. I'm just going to string away. Okay, so I decided to do 3 seed beads in between each of my smaller beads because I do want this long and I do want it to pop over my head, and I was worried that if I just did 1 in between I wouldn't get the length that I'm after. And the other thing is with these gold seed beads, they're just a craft store item, I believe, but they are, yeah, these are a craft store item. They're Toho 11/0, but they are perma finish galvanized, and it's called antique gold. And so that is really great for like the back of a necklace that goes around your neck. It's quite durable. So if your skin is moist or you have perfume or anything on, it doesn't eat away at the finish on the metallic of the seed bead. So it's a really good bead for the back of a necklace. So that's what I'm going to do. My mantra is 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3. Okay, all my stringing is done. I love this. I got my length just perfect. It just worked out great to use those little drucks spaced out by those seed beads, and it goes down from the smaller beads to the little bit larger, the 6mm. So the scale of everything is perfect. I just absolutely love it. And something else that I did while when I was finished stringing is I used my Permalac coating, the semi-gloss, and I have just held these and brushed all my little disc spacers, even in here, and I even brushed my little embellishment here, and I brushed over that flat back crystal. As you can see, it still sparkles. It's so easy to do this. It took me less than 3 minutes. I did my bead cap, I took my tassel this way, and I brushed inside because I love this piece and I want it to stay beautiful and shiny and this color. The wire that I used all has an anti-tarnish coating, and these are gold filled, so they do not tarnish. And then my seed beads are the galvanized, so they will stay nice and bright and shiny. But I just love adding that extra layer of quality to my piece, and I think I'm going to be keeping this one, to be honest, because I love it so much. This, as I said earlier, I don't know why, but this is one of my favorite Czech glass flowers, and Saturn beads and cathedral beads and faceted lantern beads are among my favorites, and I love the geometry of cylinders and discs. Like, this box with all the things, and I haven't even touched the beautiful strand of pearls that was in the box. So once again, tap more under the title of this video, and there will be links there for Sam's bead shop and for the past bead boxes. And if you use my discount code without committing to a monthly box, you can have this beautiful amethyst allure box for almost the same price as subscribers pay when they're signed up for the monthly deal. So it's a really good special deal. Rachel at Sam's Bead Shop, she said they're not going to do this forever, but I guess they had some past boxes that were available, and they want to offer them at a special price. I don't know why this one's still available. This box is so amazing, and I'll be back with more projects because I haven't even touched some of the beautiful things. I love these beads too. So I haven't decided if I'm going to do a big earring bonanza or a bracelet bonanza or both, because I have so much left to work with. These opalescent teardrops are absolutely stunning. They make beautiful earrings, so I still have so much work to do with this box. So if you're interested, if you love amethyst and you love this beautiful purple color, grab the box and maybe you can make along with me and, use some of my ideas, mix in with your own. It's just really fun. It gives us a sense of community and connection. So I thank you so much for watching. I hope everybody's having a great end of summer, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao, friends.